We're live. I will probably never show up to a live like all the way ready. It's something I learned in teaching. You got to give your classroom a transition. Like when I was first student teaching, I got bonus points for transitioning my classroom because when my observer came in, my student teacher observer, the lights to my classroom were off because I just was like, I don't know, maybe sleeping or no, I was just I used to turn the lights off because it was so bright in there. And then the class came in, everybody sat down, and then I was like, okay. And I walked over and I turned on the lights just because I hadn't turned on the lights yet. And she put in a thing like excellent use of transitions, going from like a dark, calm room to set the mood for the children, the students to come in and relax their way into class and then wake up when you turn on the lights. And I was like, oh yeah, it's called a transition. Anyways, we're going to transition into doing this live. I was just over on a Family Justice and Accountability Act call. And I just want to say one thing, like, one, God is good always and in all ways. And two, like, never count out a person who puts the Lord first. And like, if somebody is just in the shit of it and they're just like, you know what? Jesus got this. Like, God's got this. Like, I don't know what the plan is, but got me this far. Is going to get me the rest of the way. And that's truly how I feel. This has been such a month of revelation and just so many things coming to fruition. So you guys may or may not know I had a bit of a crash out this fall when I got doxxed. Do not recommend. Not like it is not for the faint of hearted. Do not recommend your public information being like live for the world to see. But I also feel like it was just like a giant rebirth into this, not rebirth. I don't know. It was just like a push into this next chapter that I would have tiptoed into for years. And it's just like, nope, you're here now. And everything happened so quickly that it's like, okay, now I'm starting to see God's glory in the plan and the divine unfoldment of it. And I remember so distinctly, so clearly, I'm looking for my journal because my girlfriend and I were just talking about this today. She's someone who lived this hell with me. And I was like, hey, what day was that this thing happened? Because I'm looking at this report and it says this. She goes, no, it was definitely this day. And so I get out my journal and I go, oh, it was, December 6th. And she's like, yeah. And then I read it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is. And she goes, Autumn, I need a copy of your journal. And I go, why? She's like, because I'm going to write a book about this. Like, I'm like what it was like to watch you go through this. And I knew that I was like blessed in what I had when I had like a family who was like walking me through this, but it was a military family. And I've talked to them, like I talked about them ad nauseum. Like in season 1, and I'm actually going to be on the East Coast. I know they don't watch my live, so they don't know this, but I'm going to go and surprise them. But I can't wait because they're on the East Coast, which like that's the best thing about being a military family is that like, sorry, it's never goodbye. It's just see you later. And I just feel so blessed that there were so many people who witnessed my journey. And if I hadn't had people all along the way stepping into my life and like giving me the courage to keep going, I wouldn't be in the place that I'm at now. So that when like these miracles start to like pop in real time and all these little battles that I've been fighting and haven't been winning, or have only been winning. Like if you watched, was it last night's video or the night before? I literally made like 2 nights ago. I literally was like, I spent a week on this FOIA request and all I got back was 1 email. But like, if I got back anything, it would have been a win because I knew what I was asking for was huge and I didn't actually expect them to give it to me. But you get so like worn down and it can be so heavy doing this. But we're now in a place where all of these little moments have come together and like, I really like my personal story has been one that, is rooted in trauma and secrecy and protecting abusers. And I never wanted to talk about childhood sexual assault. Like, nope, never wanted to. But there was something that needed to be healed. And at some point, maybe I'll tell like the rest of that story. But because it involves like other people within my family, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can, but also like not pull punches because things don't change unless we step out of the shadows of the darkness that we're living in within like these generational family curses. And I saw this guy say something once and he said, why would I care? Why would I care what the generation who passed down the trauma thinks about the way that I heal mine? I was like, okay, amen. And then when you just realize that like you're the one going through this, so that when you're on the other side and you see somebody who's still in hell, you're like, hey, my bucket is full now and my holes are patched. Let me come and help. So that's kind of my morning ramble, even though it's evening. And I'm exhausted because I've been working on my not fitness. Been working on my documents. I'm trying to get as much done as I can before I head to the East Coast. Okay. We are live. So tonight we're going to actually talk about talking all things, what would you call this? Organization. We're live, talking all things I wish I'd known before entering CPS or family court system. Next. I'm kind of like going slow today. Okay. Now, they taught me last night how to do this. I'm going to pop the live stream down, throw it over here. And while I'm doing that, you guys can read my board and see if you can figure out my strategy. Actually, no, I want to make that small. I don't want my ex-husband's lawyer to see that. Actually, I gotta cover my strategy. I'll tell you, if you're watching this in family court later on, I'll tell you my strategy after I successfully implement it. But I know my ex and his attorney watch this. Don't want to give him any cheat. There we go. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Okay, so we are going to be talking about all things. Hi, welcome, whoever's here. Good to see you. Drop your name or info in the chat. And then if you want to talk live, you can call me via Facebook Messenger or FaceTime. I don't have a phone right now. I lost it and I got to get a new one. I lost it. Somebody found it. Then it went dead. One of those fun things. But for whatever reason, God is teaching me to just chill right now, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna get set. Ready, set, let's jet. Why is Facebook so hard for me? Like all the other ones are not that hard. Okay, we don't need to be looking in the hallway. So let's do this. I'm going to oh, here, I wanted to show you guys this website. So while I'm getting everything set up, I'm going to share this website. So a mom just our family justice and accountability chat. And this is pretty cool. It's a child abuse. Well, it's not cool at all, not even close to cool, but it's amazing that somebody took the time to put, as of 12/22/25, a list of 1,400 judges that have been accused of child abuse. Many judge are 2 to 6 times. So I immediately went on and checked my county for my, my kids, judges. And let me put this in the chat for you guys. So if you want to go check your judges, these are the ones that are live. So it says, please note, while all citizens should be given due process, all judges on this list have circumvented all laws and state statutes regarding mandatory reporting of child psychological abuse, DSM-5 v. 995.51. They are protected and in collusion with sheriffs and police departments, state attorney generals, district attorneys, SBI, FBI, what is SBI? State Bureau of Investigation, U.S. attorneys, politicians, and divisions of child services. They all have shown by example that serious mental injury inflicted on child is perfectly fine as long as it is ordered in family court. That's gospel. These child abuse judges, tyrants, should all be considered child predators who are armed and dangerous. Donate to help expose these abusers. One of the ones that caught my eye on Arizona is Judge Melissa Zaber. So she's involved in a really let me think how we would say that. An extortion racket, I guess would be what we would call that, with some other guardian ad litems. And it's messy. She was one of the first ones who got on my radar when I was in Arizona, because I moved to Arizona originally. I put my studio there thinking it would be the best place for my, just like my next chapter, right? Because I thought that their family law policies were really good. And it's not that they're not, they're just, they're struggling as much as the rest of the nation is. But there's some really, really wild kickback things happening. Okay. Oh, it's Mardi Gras. I didn't know that. Good to know. So I've already forgotten how to make this post, you guys. I did this last night. We went on groups. Went to my page on my profile. I find the link. Embed, edit date, turn off, share, save. If you do social media for like just anything, could you reach out to me and like do this for me? Because this is like a daily thing. Dallas is here last night and he helped me get it up and running, but I eventually want to have this like much smoother. And okay, so anyways, maybe I'm just supposed to not post this, but here we go. So these are these states. Alaska, thank goodness, only had like 3. Jennifer S. Henderson, Judge Patrick McKay, Judge Stephen B. Wallace. I'm going to check those ones out. Arkansas. I'm going to see. Arizona or California's got some, the private judges. Those are real bad in California. There's no oversight. What is their name? Susan Bassey is doing a really good job of calling those ones out. Now, the wild part is a lot of these judges don't, like, this is their repercussion. Their names are posted publicly. And I think when they're saying they've committed child abuse oh, Judge Piccone, huh? Is that DA? Is it Janine Piccone? Like, where's the? Because that's my neck of the woods. All right, Colorado. Okay, you guys get the idea. So you can go over there and check it out. I'm going to drop that link in the comments of my post so that people can go check that out if they want. And then I'm going to go to, I guess what I do, groups. Here we go. I figured it out, you guys. Every time. Every time. Every time. I should post on like different ones. Okay. Now let's go live on here. And then, oh, you know what? While we do that, I want to play you guys this video that I watched today. If you are watching the Epstein list, so the reason, okay, sorry, class, I did not do a very good job setting the room. What we're going to discuss today is my trip to DC and this list of judges that I'm going to be taking to my congressmen or to Congress people in every single state and going, hey, here's a list of judges. Could you go ahead and just like look them up and let me know if any of these people are on the list? And I'll run with it. Thank you. And then, oh, also, did you know if you're a member of Congress, you can say anything on the House or Senate floor and you cannot be sued for it? There's a law, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like impeachable speech, unimpeachable speech. Like you're allowed to say whatever you want on the Senate floor as long as you're like presenting information about something. Okay, so this is the list of judges that I'm going to take. And then while we're doing that, let me show you 3, 2, 1. I posted it on my Facebook page today. I never make posts, you guys, like very rarely, besides just, you know, these posts. But here it is. So I said the first, let's go ahead and close this one out. I put that in the chat for you so you can go and look up your judges there. And then we're going to go over here. Family court corruption. Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Yep. Sure. So basically what I say is the first 48 seconds of this video summarizes via a hilarious parody who the key players identified in the files are and why it took nearly 2 decades for Jeffrey Epstein to be exposed / uncovered for what sex crimes. So I went through and I always start a class with who, what, when, where, why, how. What are we looking at? So what I was talking to Dallas about last night is in the app that he's developing, I said, well, what we need is somewhere where we can keep track of how much we're paying these lawyers to make sure that they're actually doing their jobs. Because I actually got $3,000 back from a lawyer. I made a payment. They didn't do what they said they were going to do. And they gave me $3,000 back because they didn't actually do the thing. And I have a very straightforward legal approach to make sure that you hold your lawyers accountable and to like get that money back. I will teach a master class on that in a minute. And like lawyers are going to hate me. And I hope they do, because if you're a good lawyer, I just made your job so much easier because people are going to be banging down your door. And if you're a shitty lawyer and you charge an insane amount of money to like live off of the pain and suffering of families in family court hell, then shame on you. But I was saying to Dallas that the app needs functionality where you can create a dossier, meaning whose hands come into your case that are putting resources in versus whose hands are taking out. So just like with the Epstein list, there's so many names. Not every single person on the list was engaged in something bad. So like we just saw Whoopi Goldberg being like, well, I didn't go on the plane. I'm a bus girl. But you're like, okay, Whoopi, well, we'll see how this one plays out. Thou protest too much. And then you have like Joe Rogan, who was clearly, they were trying to get him to come in to the space. And I'm going to show you 2 videos to kind of show you how I set up my dossiers of like understanding what people's basic motives are. And then from there, I'm able to like untangle cases really, really quickly. But it comes down to like knowing who the people are in your case, what their motivating factors are, whether it's money, access, resources, power, greed. And then some of them are just straight up evil, like they're narcissists, or they feed on the psychological terror of people in family courts. So let me show you this. Okay, the first 48 seconds of this video summarizes via hilarious parody who the key players identified in the files are, and why it took nearly 2 decades for Jeffrey Epstein to be exposed / uncovered for what? Sex crimes. When the initial disclosures started going mainstream, framing Jeffrey Epstein as a sex trafficker, it was done intentionally to insulate the pocketbooks of the global elites he had been inside trading with and for, domestically and internationally. Meaning he went from like a property management guy to like a financier. And if you like, I made a dossier on him. I was watching several. I love Whitney Webb. I watch her videos because she knows the who, what, when, where, why, how, and she's so fast with it. And she puts all the things that I'm like, oh, I thought that's what that was. She puts names to the key connections and the relationships, because life's all about relationships. No network exists without a relationship or a connection. And I actually kind of like unpacked it tonight. So where are all the clients that Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked victims to? It's pretty wild, right? That she's like in jail for 20 years. But like none of the people she trafficked the victims to are in jail. Weird. Why they let Jeffrey Epstein take the fall as a disgraced pedophile when while protecting his intelligence ties impacting global financial markets. Because according to the DOJ and Pam Bondi, the truth will collapse the system as we know it, aka the world economy that's been tied to the dollar since the 1970s, which has allowed national debt to soar and inflation to reach endpoint status. So obviously what we know is there's a cabal of global elites and they rule the world, right? It's the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. There is a group of uber wealthy billionaire, multi-billionaires. Back at the turn of the century, we used to call these banana republics, or oligarchies, where there's like, or a monarchy, but in a monarchy that is passed through like a lineage and it's an inherited title and then all the properties. So you have to literally be born into it. But in an oligarchy, it's like groups of rich families, like the Rothschilds or we'll just leave there. Wealthy families. And then like a banana republic is like when a small group of like revolutionaries come in and take over. I think, is that a banana republic? I don't know why I can't think of it, but essentially what we're looking at is this was always a financially motivated network fueled by international trade secrets and tradecraft meant to manipulate currency. And then they also did bad things, right? They also were like evil, horrible people that trafficked children and hurt, women and children and men. And the reason why they're protected and insulated so long is because the people at the top are the top, people in tech, bio weapons, like everything, the bio industry. Guys, I'm so tired. I've been working all day on this case and I can't think of anything other than my case. Tech, finance, property development. Okay. So, according to the DOJ and Pam Bondi, the truth of if all of the names were redacted will collapse the system as we know it. And what she means by that is the world economy that has been tied to the dollar since the 1970s, which has allowed national debt to soar and inflation to reach endpoint status. So the real question is, how are we, the people of all nations, because this isn't just an America problem, this is an international trafficking organization. The U.S. happens to be one of the biggest sources of those children that are being trafficked and women. So how are we, as the people of all nations, going to hold the globalist cabal accountable for their crimes against humanity? And this goes at the same level that we have the cabal at the global level that we're going to talk about and share, down at the micro level of courts and counties, like county courts. And those are the easiest ones to get. That's why if you can get a list of your judges and you can contact your senator and go, hey, can you go look at this and see if any of these people are on your lists? You might be able to knock a few off, get them out of the judiciary and get people of good moral standing in. Okay. So how are we going to hold the globalist cabal accountable for their crimes against humanity? Why are we not demanding a Nuremberg-esque international trial, holding these monsters accountable in each and every city, state, capital, and country across the world? And where the fuck is the Vatican and our other global religious leaders? Like I said, insert conspiracy theory here about the Pope, but even still, where is the humanity and decency? Where is the righteous outrage? It's 2026. Aliens are real. Yep, that's the new distraction. Oh, President Obama is catching balls at a basketball game courtside, and he's doing the Olympics. And also Trump's going to talk about aliens. Like, like, don't get distracted. We all know that's already happening. That's old news. It's not fake news. It's old news. So it's 2026, aliens are real, and AI is going to replace 90% of the intellectual capital workforce in the next decade. Surely we can figure out a way to hold an international tribunal in less time than it takes the head of the Olympic Committee to plan an unprecedented fire in Los Angeles, only 3 years before it hosts the 2028 Summer Games. Anybody else following that? Like, one of the guys, and I said, oh, wait, the head of the Olympic Committee was also on the list. So I guess they'll need a new distraction to spark social unrest and fighting amongst our proletariat selves. Just saying. So what I meant by that is, one, if you look at the fires that happened in LA, like, we have these big things that happen in plain sight, and then we never seem to get the answers as to why and how and who and what. Like in Maui, the fire there, it's like, we don't even talk about it anymore. It's like, what's happening there? What happened 5 years on? Where are those stories? Like, where's the follow-up? Where are the reporters? Like, what? Or even, like, I think a lot about, like, Sandy Hook or the Vegas shootings at Mandalay Bay. It's like, where are the people? Where are the real stories? Where are the testimonies? Is it just the people that want to talk about it? Are they done? Is it debunked? We live in the age of, it's almost hard for a conspiracy to happen because there's so much access to the internet. So, like, the internet keeps a record of everything. So I heard somebody say that Jeffrey Epstein's kind of like extortion empire was built on the back of Ghislaine Maxwell's father. Oh gosh, why can't I remember his name? Something Maxwell. And it was never intended to live into the internet age. Like, they lived in the VHS, maybe, digital DVD burner age, but in the age of the internet doesn't forget. Oh, and that was another thing. So, like, not everybody on the Epstein list is going to be doing good or bad things. Joe Rogan got, an invitation to go from a guest that he trusted on his podcast, who then met Epstein. And then Epstein was like, hey, can you get this guy to go, come out to the island? And Rogan's like, no. So just because his name's in there doesn't mean he did anything. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying, just because their name is in there, if they're one of these corrupt judges, doesn't mean that they, like, did something. Okay. And then, in case you guys aren't tracking what's going on with the Olympics and why I made that reference, so the 2028 Summer Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles, which is, like, kind of crazy to have an entire city burned to the ground. Oh, I don't know, like, less than 3 years before you are going to be dumping insane amounts of, like, money into the infrastructure, and you need to clear out a bunch of land, and you need to clear out a bunch of homeless people, and you basically just need to, like, clear things. Also, not for nothing, I'm going to say it and I'm going to put it out there, and I would like somebody else to run with this, because even this one is too kooky for me. There have been rumors for years about the underground tunnels, like under some of our biggest cities. I know, like, Vegas has them with the water, like the aqueduct system that floods every couple of years or whenever there's, like, a big downpour. And because it's the desert, the water comes and it comes fast. And then, like, homeless people who live in there end up dying and, like, washing out. And then, okay. And then, LA, same thing. I went to a fundraising event, and actually, maybe at some point I'll play a recording of it with a guy named Louis Erms, who's running for governor of California on the like trafficking of children platform. And he talks about the adrenochrome, and he talks about these underground bunkers and underground tunnels going in and out of these mansions. And it sounds like cuckoo bananas. But then when you consider the fact that a good portion of the people whose homes burned down in Maui also burned down in the Palisades fire, like there was a lot of people who had 2 residents like lost within 3 years. And they just happened to be in areas where they're like, it's a lot of movement of illegal things. I don't know. There's something there. There is something there. And Louis Erms talks a lot about how he used to build these underground bunkers and tunnels in these places in LA. And it reminded me of the story of John Walsh, who got his start. Yeah, John Walsh from America's Most Wanted, how he got his start out on the islands on like the coast of Florida. And so those are some leads that I'm following. Apparently there's this thing called the actor bond. I don't know. I'm going to track it down. But where I was going with all
Rumi here, pray with me for just a few seconds.
Right,
from the book of Joel. Yet even now, says the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, abounding in steadfast love. Aren't we all a little bit farther from God than we need to be? Let's return to him this Lent in prayer. Join me and millions of others. Pray every day on Hallow.
That's right. Mardi Gras means...
Welcome back to the DOJ Has Downs. They're at the gate, and they're off. Welcome back to the DOJ Hounds. They're at the gate, and they're off. Jumping out in the lead is underage girls and Bill Clinton close behind. It's a blue dress painting and a creepy island. And now here comes the Lolita Express. A curious prince. Andrew falls back as the FBI takes the reins. Faulty cameras falls off quickly as a fat Bill Barr moves into position. And here comes My Guards. Took a nap followed by the strongest bedsheets and the dumbest thing we've ever heard. And down the stretch they come. Pedos Run Our Government is pulling away from disappearing victims by a length. But coming in strong is No Videos Exist. But I saw the video and nothing is wrong. And at the wire, it's the media colluding with Epstein, a conspiracy to finish Trump. And who's the boss?
My favorite one.
An absolutely catastrophic situation for Democrats yesterday.
He talked about the strongest bed sheets. And what was the other one? The strongest bed sheets and here comes My Guards. Took a nap followed by the strongest bed sheets.
Bed sheets and the dumbest thing we've ever heard.
I mean, it's just so funny. Like it encapsulates it so well. So if you end up watching this whole thing, basically it goes on just to kind of like talk about, I'm not like tracking the Trump stuff. What I'm tracking is this. Hold on. Okay. So I think that Trump is running a giant psyop. That's kind of my take. I think he's going like, don't look, they're done. We're done. Everybody run away. Don't stop looking over here. And then of course, it's like the first thing that people are going to go do because they're like, he's saying not to look here. So let's look. Okay.
We can then.
And I promise I'm going to get to the point of why we're talking about all this. And it is to expose the corrupt judges in our counties, because I have been uncovering them for 2 years. And I have these insane dossiers, like for every county, for every state. I have like basically one of these chaos papers floating around where somebody will call me and tell me 5 different things and I'll write it all down. And then somebody else will call me from Pinellas County. I'm like, Pinellas County, like, where's my Pinellas County dossier? And I'll write it down and then I start connecting the dots. So just listen to this.
Mirror them, control them just by proxy. Bill Clinton's a great example of this. Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's jet. And what do they say about Bill Clinton's flights on Epstein's jets? There were little girls on the flights and they were putting the president at risk. Kevin Spacey said these exact things. The little girls on the flight put Clinton at risk. I mean, are you going to call Kevin Spacey a liar? In what motivation would Kevin Spacey have to lie here?
I was very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to the Old Vic. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights.
There were young girls on those flights, yeah. And that's been out. They've talked about it.
Well, I haven't ever heard it put like that.
So it's called a honeypot. They teach us about it in the State Department. Basically, if you're a dude and you're a 6 or 5 or 6, and a chick that's like a 9 or a 10 is hitting on you, and it's not, beware.
But you can obviously see the operation here. This has gotten no press. I can't imagine why. But nonetheless, Jeffrey Epstein has been all but confirmed due to the, and I want to just put up, if you could put up some of those drop site links, all but confirmed and as an Israeli agent, somebody acting on behalf of the nation state of Israel. And so you have to effectively bundle it all together and view this as what we've always viewed it as, which is a influence operation, a compromise operation. And now we have it in black and white. That's what they were trying to do. They're trying to smear Trump by proxy using Jeffrey Epstein. Democrats don't give a damn about Epstein victims. You've never heard them say the name Epstein before. Bill Clinton now is on death's door, so they just don't care. He's done. They've used him. He's a husk and a shell of himself. Bill Clinton can barely utter a sentence. He's gone the way of Joe Biden. So he's totally useless to the Democrats now. So now they can just trot out the Epstein stuff because it is now useful against Donald Trump. I think they were a little worried that this would all blow back on Bill, but nonetheless, Bill is totally a relic at this point, and they just don't care, right?
Your health deserves more than guesswork. At Prenuvo,
So
our whole body MRI.
We're not trying to do a commercial for you, Prenovo. But the reason why these honeypot, hold on.
Got it.
The reason why these are so successful is because they're predictable, and human behavior is predictable, just like relationships are predictable. You have to identify where the power is flowing in a relationship. And this, I learned a lesson this week in family court. Stand your ground and hold it. Do not step. If you flinch even an iota, they will come and you go, no, I'm sorry. This is the line. And everything in life really just comes down to power. And I get it when you're stuck in family court hell and the trauma is just so loud. It can feel very disempowering. But if you start your case with a clean slate and you go in prepared and you know that the system is not just rigged against you, but it is functioning as it's intended, which is to bleed you dry. And your job is to, oh, thank you. Maddie, you're here. I was talking about you. Well, in a meeting earlier. Speech and debate clause of Article 1 in the Constitution. Thank you. Oh, we probably left. Okay, here we go.
And what are we to believe about what Jeffrey Epstein says? Is he telling the truth? I mean, you can see here in the documents that unlike Donald Trump, the victims did know Bill Clinton quite closely and carnally. You can tell here that according to all available evidence, Bill Clinton has a considerable amount to hide. And it's something that President Trump's been telling us for a long time. Somebody who actually cares about Epstein victims would talk like this.
Or they should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about. Because, Jeffrey Epstein should be spoken about. And they should speak about them because they don't talk about them. They talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy. Some of his friends that are hedge fund guys, they're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
Do you maintain you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. So you should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure as hell didn't. Thank you very much. You should be talking about, if you're going to talk about that, talk about Clinton, talk about the former president of Harvard, talk about all of his friends, talk about the hedge fund guys that were with him all the time. Don't talk about Trump. What you should be talking about is the fact that we have the greatest 6 months in the history of a presidency. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28.
Okay, so obviously this seems like a lot of just deflection, and he's like, hey, don't look at me, look at them, look at them, look at them, which is like, yeah, fine, good. But he's right. He's the president. We're going to find out whatever we're going to find out. And at least this stuff is starting to come out. And I mean, there's going to be enough people who are just focusing on Trump and exposing him. Let him do it. Go for it. You guys just, you use the metadata, you find the clues, you tell us what the thing is. Okay, you know what? Let me just cut to the fucking chase. Melania was one of the girls. There, it's done. We've got the answer. Can we all move on? Probably shouldn't have spoiled it for you, class, but if we all just get to the end goal of why Trump doesn't want this to be a thing, but it's a thing and it's always going to be a thing because Trump met Melania through Epstein. That's fact. I mean, I shouldn't say it's fact. It's definitely conjectured. And I'm sure that there are probably people who have signed significant NDAs never to attest to that fact. But if you look at the dossier of Epstein from the 80s, where he was a property developer in the, oh gosh, okay. So Epstein started his kind of career out of nowhere by being a teacher at this super prestigious school where William Barr, who was later the attorney general, I believe under Trump's first administration, or maybe it was Obama's. Either way, not a good person. His father wrote a letter of recommendation out of nowhere to endorse this Jeffrey Epstein, who was kind of like a nobody or a nothing. And then he rises really, really, really quick into being in these, like, he kind of got involved in the Iran-Contra Adnan Khashoggi era. Like that's like the very beginning of what he was doing and kind of moving in these circles. Then he went from a property developer in the like 90s and early 2000s where he got attached to Lex Wexner. And then there's rumors, and this is from a Whitney web video, that he like shared an office space with this family called the Galettas, which are a real estate family. I don't know who they are, but they're on my dossier now. So I'm like, every time I get a new name and I don't know it, that means there's something to see there. And I'm going to circle back, right? It's like the Galettas. Or I'm just going to like keep the name on my radar. So like Adnan Khashoggi, like that's from the 80s. I was a baby. Like, what do I know about that? But I know the name enough to know that there was like a story there. Iran-Contra. Okay. I could probably go and dig in and figure out what the story is there. But then you just follow the people and you follow the money. So Epstein goes from like a teacher where he has access to children in a very prestigious school where he has access to very wealthy parents and very well-placed parents. So when I lived in South America and I taught in South America when my ex-husband was stationed at the U.S. Embassy in Asunción, Paraguay, and I taught these students that were so insanely wealthy that, you know, a lot of them were like narco kids, but they were so insanely wealthy that the parents had this attitude of like, I pay you and you just do what I say. But then at the same time, you're the teacher. And if the kid's like not doing their work, you're kind of like, well, but I do still need to educate them. And I had this one run in with these twins. There was triplets and they were in one class. And I was just doing this teaching job, honestly, just to stay busy and get out of the house and use my brain. Because, you know, being a military wife can sometimes be isolating. But I definitely didn't make enough for any kind of headache of any type. I was like, I'm not here long term and I'm not bothering with you kids. And these kids treated me like trash until they saw that I had black plates on my license. And like, which are they're diplomatic plates. And they were like, oh, she works for the embassy. And then everybody started being nice to me. And I was like, oh, so you realize I'm not just like a Peace Corps teacher that ended up in, you know, in Paraguay and is like trying to make a life and a living here. I'm just kind of doing this to use my brain. And I had parents who wanted me to discipline their children in private with them, like in the principal's office, but publicly make sure that the story was that I made the mistake and their kid didn't really cheat. And the reason for that was reputation washing. They all know what everybody's reputation is amongst themselves, but what they don't want is for an outsider to influence the way that the in-group sees each other. So the in-group of elites, they all know who they are. They all know how they all operate, what they do, but they don't want anyone else to come in and to kind of like know about that. And because of my status as an embassy employee or embassy, like embassy member of the American embassy, it was a bad look for them. And so it's like, oh, you don't want it getting around that, like, you know, an American who's here on a diplomatic status thinks negatively of this student because they did something bad in her class, because then that reflects back up into society. Where I'm going with that insane story is that Epstein started his career as a teacher in a very prestigious private school where he had immediate access to parents of wealth and influence. And he had their most precious commodity. That's right, their children. Sounding familiar? My family court and CPS families. And why we're discussing this? He had access to their children, and therefore, you know, kind of favoritism, nepotism, whatever you want to call it. Better references, better, you know, like, what do you call that? Endorsements, recommendations for higher education, et cetera, et cetera. Most of you have been to school, so you know what I'm talking about. So after he leaves this private school, he starts doing property development, and he wasn't a financier in the 90s. He was a property developer. Where was he a property developer? Manhattan. And that's where, like, by then he'd kind of, the Galettas, and then there's this other guy named Tom Burtbrick. I need to look him up. The Galettas apparently were a real estate family who he shared an office with, and that's how he got into the, you know, Manhattan, or the what do they call it, like distressed real estate game in New York. And then again, this is why if you're going to do a dossier, obviously make it better than mine, but like do a little, like a bubble wheel. So you put Epstein in the middle, and then who are his people on the outside, and then who's it connected to them, and what are their relationships. And if you look at kind of like the top 5 people of influence in the early 90s, or in the late 90s, and then into the early 2000s, when he really started to hit his peak and went from a property developer to a financier, was after he had secured working relationships with Lex Wessner, Prince Andrew. So you've got like the monarchy, which that comes from his connections with Ghislaine Maxwell, who she's the daughter, and why can I not think of the dad's name? Something Maxwell, who was basically a Mossad agent. He was an Israeli spy, but some people think he was actually a double spy, and he died under suspicious circumstances. But rumor has it that he more or less like threatened to spill the beans, and they were like, we're not gonna, you can't blackmail the blackmailers. We'll just kill you. That's what at least Ghislaine claims happened to her father. Okay. So you've got Epstein, and he surrounds himself in the late 90s and early 2000s with Lex Wexner of the Abercrombie, Victoria's Secret, that whole empire. And he has access to beautiful women, models, the Abercrombie models. There's a lot of male survivors who aren't getting as much attention as they deserve because there were a lot of men trafficked in this. But there were also the women who were trafficked, but they were trafficked in one of two ways. There's a thing called a honeypot, which is where there's kind of like an agreement that, a honeypot traps somebody, and I don't know what the name for it is, but it's where there's kind of like, it's like a quid pro quo, where someone would, like an heiress to a Norwegian empire, something like that, like Selena Middlehart. She was somebody who dated Epstein, And then she ended up dating Trump. And then after that, he met Melania through Prince Andrew. Or through Epstein, sorry, not Prince Andrew. And then, so he's got his so Epstein started phasing out of the property development and like distressed property space in the late 90s, early 2000s. This is when Trump was doing his Miss America pageant ownership stuff. And the two just butted heads. And I don't know, like the skis in him recognized the skis in the other. I don't know. I genuinely think that Trump met Melania and was like, oh, this is the one. And then I think he actually genuinely fell in love. When I saw them in person, she runs the show. Like he defers to her. She is the power differential. He really genuinely loves her. And there's a chance that she was one of the quid pro quo wives. And that's kind of what this is. There's like two funnels. One is the really, really dark abuse, that we are seeing on the list. And then there's this group of kind of like pedigreed women who come from noble backgrounds. Like Ghislaine Maxwell comes from a very, very like high society background. She has these two older sisters that are twins, Christine and Isabel. And they, the Maxwell twins, these are her older sisters. So she's got a set of older sisters that are twins and then a younger brother. And they all ended up getting into tech in the late 90s, early 2000s, right around like when their father was killed. And that's where the Bill Gates connection comes in, because Epstein had his fingers in a little bit of everything. With Trump back then, it was the property management, distressed property rehabilitation, and then kind of like the glitz and glamour of the, what do you guys call that? Atlantic City and, Florida, Miami Beach, like Miss Universe, kind of like pretty women and big buildings. That was the Trump stuff. And then you had Lex Wessner, who was like, give me all the boy models. I want all the Abercrombie models, right? And you can manage my money. Just don't share these images of me with all of the boys that I like in Ohio and Iowa in the Midwest, because taboo, right? Over there. And then you have the Clintons, obviously, on the political front, who are, we don't even need to, like, we already know, right? We already know. Then you've got Prince Andrew over on the like royal aristocratic side, the emails between Epstein and Fergie, where she's like, I've always thought of you as a friend. And, just because Andrew and I aren't together anymore, it doesn't mean that we can't still be friends. I'm like, oh man, sad. And then you have the Bill Gates, who he starts, Microsoft, and in the early days of like web-based offshore banking, that was where the financier angle came in for Epstein. He kind of like went through like a rebrand, and all along the way he's doing the honeypots, right? So again, this is important for family court, because the what you're looking for in family court is how are they all connected, and who are they all funneling back to, and who are they all protecting? Who are they married to? Who are they dating? Where did they used to work? Where did they used to go? Where are they headed? Are they going to stay there forever? So like Commissioner Mendoza in Monterey County. Monterey County, for people who actually like live there is not a very transient county. People generally tend to stay there long term. And then she was a self-help lawyer for years. I looked her salary up, and she's the highest as of like 2022, 2023. She was the highest paid public employee in Monterey County. And I think that's because she had been a self-help clerk for so long, which is why, pay attention to your wheel. I walked into a hearing on March 19th with a family friend named Dawn Landis, who used to be the deputy DA. Is it deputy DA? Yeah, deputy district attorney in Monterey County. And he walked in and goes, oh, you got Mendoza? And I go, yeah, what? And he goes, why didn't you tell me? I was like, I don't even know, like, what, I don't even know where we are. Like, I knew we were at the court, but I was so like just upside down. And Don's like a godsend, because he was like, get your shit together, kid. Like, the world's going to eat you up. And, he saw me for who I was in this process, but also like there was always a swift kick in the ass coming if I didn't get my act in gear to get my kids. And I think he probably knew that if I survived, this would be the ultimate output. But there were some days that I almost didn't. And we walk into her courtroom and he goes, "Oh, you got Mendoza." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "She hates me." And like, they must've had some like run-ins back in the day. And he more or less said, like, your case is going to go different from now on. Like, cause he's now a criminal defense attorney. And she's like, basically just going to assume that you're guilty. And even though a judge, can't go off of assumptions, I'm now going back through my case record, like page by page by page by page, seeing how her opinion of me deteriorated from that date forward. And it was almost like nothing I did could ever get me back in the good graces, because in her mind, her dossier was set. I was over here with Don Landis and down on a down train, and I had a defense attorney, and everything was already decided. And now obviously I'm like so vocally outspoken that what I want more than anything is just judicial accountability. Like, I don't even really want Mendoza's I don't want her resignation. I don't want her to apologize. I just want the record to be corrected. And I found a very strategic way of doing that, but it's been through literally making a dossier. So I have a timeline. This is my 2023 of every single file. And once I'm totally done, I'll go through and show you guys. But if I could start all over again, would never want to. Pray to God I don't have to, and I won't, because we're going to change family court for everybody. What I would tell every person to do is, one, do not hire a lawyer. If you're in family court, do not hire a lawyer. Go pro se. Go to the self-help clerk in your court and ask them for the documents. Fill them out by hand, because then you won't think about it longer. It will be honest. It will be genuine. It will be on paper. If you want to look up the codes, you can ask the person. But if you're getting into a point where you're having to create a brief where you're citing the codes of why the court did it wrong, they knew that they were doing it wrong. Just like my ex-husband's attorney knew that she hired a woman in Asia and knew that she had her signing documents that said, "I am a United States citizen." You know what you did, Brianna Cornwall. You know that you had a foreign national sign a document under oath testifying to the fact that they lived in the United States and mailed your documents. That's fraud upon the court. And when I can show a pattern of it over time, like, I don't know, 10 times that you had somebody do something over the course of 3 years, that's when we have a problem. But if you're representing yourself, you're not going to have that problem, because the judge will give you the benefit, at least up in the early days. And if you just know that the system is rigged against you, it's not going to be fair, and they're not going to act in your child's best interest until we have laws passed that force them to, or until we have enough individuals who are educated in how these courts work, or the courts are just abolished. The family courts are abolished. This greed cycle is going to go on, because it's the same reason why Epstein was allowed to go on for so long. Supply and demand. We are the supply. Our children are the supply. Our resources are the supply. And greedy ass, unscrupulous lawyers, judges, guardian ad litems, psychological evaluators are the demand. Like, they're demanding more and more money out of the system. So to go back to the site that we had, where we had all of those judges. No, where's that window? No. Here we go. Until we can understand what all of these people have in common, what their connections are, if they're just inadvertently doing a bad job, or if they're intentionally doing a bad job. So if there's somebody over here with like a two-time offender, or a three-time offender, they're probably doing this intentionally. And here's the thing: there are some states where the numbers are just significantly lower, because it's the same reason why on the Epstein dossier we're not seeing a ton of stories out of Vermont having to do with the Epstein dossier, are we? No, we're seeing a lot of Miami, California, New York, Ohio, but that's like the Western area, and then overseas, and in the big cities. in the smaller states, in the smaller counties, they can't get away with it as much because it's a lot obvious. It's a lot more obvious. But the bigger the city, the bigger the cabal, the bigger the players, and the bigger the prize, basically. So you have to figure out who the main players are in your community and what their end game is. And then from there, you start making your dossier. So like, here, if somebody is watching and you want to put a state in, I will do an example. Otherwise, I'll just randomly pick one. So I think I know which one I'm going to do. Hold on. Hello? I'm on a live. Don't say anything wild.
Hello, everybody.
Would you like to talk about the corrupt judges listed by state on the childabusivejudges.com website? Any interest or a hard pass?
I think all judges are corrupt.
They are. I'm teaching everybody about how the judges run in these cabals. And if you can identify who the judge is, you can identify like where the money is going and flowing back into. It's a whole thing. You didn't call for that.
Especially in family courts.
Especially in family. Yeah, did you ever go through family court?
Yeah, I had two really bad ones.
How much?
My two divorces are really bad.
How much money? You were divorced twice?
Yeah, each of them cost me over $500,000.
$500,000 each?
Yeah, I'll talk to you about that another time.
Mostly to lawyers?
Lots of lawyers.
What?
Said they were going to get us equal custody, and I have with one of them I have 50-50 now.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I maybe see 4 times a year because the judge actually is related to my ex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In a small town, and nothing could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I was like, I'm like, you realize this is like, you're related to her, right? This shouldn't even happen. And they passed it all through. I'm like, hey. So I've tried to fight, but he's now 13 and wants to come live with me. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens. And that's kind of what I've been waiting on with my kiddos until they turn a certain age, because despite the fact that I have, dozens of documents where they're begging to see me, begging for more time, and the court knows, they still just continue to deny and obfuscate, which is why we're going to DC. And I want to talk to you about the song and like all that's going to be happening, because we're going to be doing a couple of trips. But let me finish this live and I'll call you back.
All right.
And
I might be home by then, but just send me a message. If not, I can talk to you tomorrow.
Cool. All right. Have a good night.
Okay.
Bye. Okay. So you heard that? $500,000 each on what should have been just a straightforward custody and division of assets. It should not be harder to get out of a marriage than it is to get into a marriage. And it's basically just a contract, and we just need to have better contract negotiations, and we cannot allow the system to be weaponized by individuals who already are inherently in a conflictual relationship. Like they didn't get along in the marriage, or they didn't get along in their parenting relationship enough to stay together, so they're apart. Therefore, it's an inherently oppositional process that rewards further division and opposition by funneling funds to the people who can get in between and cause division. Like I got in trouble so many times for CCing my ex-husband on emails to his lawyer about child visitation, where it clearly says in the orders that the parents can have brief contact regarding visitation, but his lawyer would interfere and intercede. And I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you for $400 an hour when I can CC him on something, and then he can read it himself and doesn't have to wait 3 days for you to read it and then make up your own decision of how you're going to make the most money from answering it, and then tell him the information and then trickle him out for however long. And then eventually maybe I'll get to see my kids. Did I give two fucks about how she was going to trickle out my ex? No. But did I ultimately care about how quickly I would get to see my kids? Yes. So for me, whatever was the quickest path to my kids was the path that I was going to take. And I was always going to take that path. So anytime the judge or the lawyers were like, or his attorney was like, stop CCing him. Why? So you can control the narrative and charge him more per hour for you to read the fucking email? Fuck off, bitch. It's such a Ponzi scheme. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Any attorney that continues to like obfuscate within this, especially when you're dealing with an apex predator, like if you're dealing with a truly abusive person who like will hunt you down, I don't know, send mail to your house after your address is listed as confidential. Not when you're living in the same house that you've been living in for 20 years, when you literally moved 2 states over to get away from them and they find you. And then they publish not only your home address, but the land that you bought for survivors of domestic violence where you're building a women's shelter. Like that is abuse. But if you're just trying to communicate, being like, hey, how can we negotiate like a fair settlement? How can we negotiate a fair process? How can we negotiate a fair anything? And somebody is coming in between and they're making money off of that division. That is your indicator that you got to get your dossier going. That's your indicator that you got to get your dossier going. And Dallas is coming up, Malibu Dallas is coming up with this app that will have, you'll be able to put all your documents in it and it can analyze it. But what I'm hoping is we don't even have to get to that part because we can have a system where reasonable people who no longer desire to be in an intimate relationship raising children can use an app or like a platform to negotiate a contract that is truly and genuinely in the best interest of the children. Because a lawyer interfering with your ability to talk to the other parent of your children or introducing even more conflict into the process intentionally is not in the best interest of the children. So for example, somewhere in this chaos, I saw one of my ex-husband's attorney wrote something basically saying Autumn should not have any future, all visitation should be suspended indefinitely until, and it was like, I can't even remember what it was until, because there was nothing left for me to do. I've done all their things. I took the parenting class. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I don't do anything bad. Like there's nothing bad that I'm being accused of besides like talking about my ex on the internet, which I mean, I'm using it to educate others and to heal. So, okay, got me there, but that's not like a crime. That's called the First Amendment and I'm entitled to it. And so are you. Because gag orders that are placed in family law cases are unconstitutional, which is why I'm creating this docket of everything. So all of this paperwork exists in multiple other locations. Anybody could have gotten it from the first day until December 18th, 2024, when it was marked confidential at my ex-husband's request. But then he went and published the case dockets on a Yelp review for everybody to go look at. So what is it, Dan? Do you want the case to be private? Because I never posted the case numbers, or until you put it out there and I realized, oh, this is all just a game. This was all just a game for you. This was all just about winning at all costs and making me as miserable as possible to punish me for finally having the courage to leave you and use my voice and stand in my power. And what did you take? That's right. The only thing I actually care about, which is our children. So I am actually acting in the best interest of our children because I've used this time to work with other parents in the system, males and females, same sex and, traditional relationships, to see where the division comes from and what the key, what the common denominator is. And the common denominator is money and who is going to get it and who is going to keep it and who is going to use it to punish somebody versus who's going to use it for good. So I would never wish family hell on anybody, but if you are starting it, I hope that you could get organized. And what I would recommend before you spend even a single penny on a lawyer is go to Amazon. Don't go to Best Buy. I mean, I shouldn't encourage Amazon, but go to Ali or whatever that online ordering is and buy 1,000 clear sheets. Maybe you won't need it. Maybe you only need 500. I started with 1,000 because I already had that many. And I'm already up to like 4,000. But go buy and just start with the biggest one that you can. That way you don't run out of space. And I pray that you don't have to use it. The biggest binder you can find and a bunch of clear sheet protectors. And then anytime you get a document in the court or related to your family law matters, that is now the most important thing in your life that week. Do not prioritize anything above that besides eating and sleeping. Because whatever that document is, it's going to control your life for the next day, week, month, year, 5 years until your kids turn 18 and then want to be reunited. So treat that piece of paper as like your homework for that week. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is print it out. And then, and if you go to your county clerk, if you have a fee waiver, like if you're on any kind of like social services, anything like that, you can, I'm trying to think what that's called. You can apply for a fee waiver and usually get your documents printed for like much, much cheaper, right? And then you're going to take every single page and you're going to put it in a clear protector. I know this isn't like an OCD thing. And you're going to put it in your binder and you're going to do it in 100% chronological order. Now, what you're not going to do is put it in order of the date your documents were stamped. So like at the top of a document that had been stamped. Oh, haha. While we're doing this, I'll show you guys something. That was me in the hospital on November 20th, 2023. This was him sitting in the corner of the hospital room. And he would not leave so that I could make a report. If you are not safe, indicate to your provider that you need to speak to them privately. And that can be really hard to do. And I don't actually have any good tips because I tried to talk to the cardiologist or the lady doing my heart echo on that night. And she actually asked me, she goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, and she's like, "I'm going to take some pictures of you." And I was like, and then she did. Anyways, if they go to use the bathroom, ask them to go get you something and then make a report. It's always better to make a report while you're in the hospital. These are just like bruises. So keep these. And then what you're going to do is if you see anything that like you want to notate while it's in its black sheet, you're going to note it on the, like I use a Sharpie, and you can always erase Sharpie with like an alcohol wipe, right? Or just like a little bit of alcohol and paper towel comes right off. And then you've got, sheet protector. Remember, as a public school teacher for years and years and years, I will use something a million times until it like literally falls apart. And the reason why the reason why you spend the money on these, which is like, I think I spent $100 on like 12, 18. Wow. 2,500 sheet protectors. So like 2,000 plus sheet protectors. I spent like $50 on them, maybe $100. And that's going to save me a lot in printing because now if I write on this one, I don't have an original copy anymore, but I might need an original copy. And so I have this, I pull it out. I've still got my notes on there. And then I can put it back in. That way, when I'm meeting with a lawyer or I'm meeting with like my advocate or I'm meeting with somebody who I need to be like, hey, this is the thing, I can then say, I can then pull out the blank copy and say, let me make a copy of this for you and give them the blank. Or I can go and photocopy this and then they have the notated copy. And then if something changes, you can do that. So like, hold on. So like, this is the report from my arrest. I'm going to go through all this evidence with you guys at some point, But what I'm doing is anything that's like, it's done, it can't be corrected, it just is what it is. I'm just going through and like notating it in black ink on the document. I'm circling names. I'm making a dossier. I keep a register of every name that I come across. I circle it, I write it down, and then I go to the front of my binder where I literally have a notepad that says dossier, and I will write that name down and who they are affiliated with. So I've got a list of the Presidio of Monterey, soldiers, family advocate people, whatever it is. And then I have Monterey County DA, Monterey Police Department, Pacific Grove Police Department. At one point, let's see if it's in here. I even printed out, oh yeah, see? I even printed out the Pacific Grove Police officers. And then I took notes on every single one of them as I met them. So Giselle Acevedo, something. Oh, she was a civil standby on the 17th of July, 2024. Very nice. Wiley Griffin, very nice. Civil standby. Max Murray, 10 out of 10, well-trained. Fitzgerald Brown, very nice. 8 out of 8, tracking location. Orlando Perez, badge number 2102, has facial hair now, claims to be CIT trained, which is trauma-informed training. Got nasty with me though, right? So now I've got a dossier and I can be like, oh, hello, what is it? Sergeant Perez, we've met before. But then I have an idea of who I'm dealing with when I'm advocating for people in my community, or when I was still advocating for myself. And then here's a little trick that I learned from my master teacher when I was getting my teaching license. It's called a pigeon compliment. And it's where you give somebody a compliment through another person who's helping you. So I would be like, oh, thank you, Officer Brown. It's just so nice of you to do this civil standby. I actually had a civil standby on the 17th, and that was Officer Acevedo. And she really, made me feel safe. And I just am so grateful for everything you guys do. So thank you so much. And they're like, oh yeah, of course, our pleasure. Oh yeah, Acevedo's great, right? And then they feel like, this is a member of the community who pays my salary, but also appreciates that I'm doing a job and doesn't just treat me like an asshole, right? Okay. So you're flagging things. If you want to get super fancy, you can go through and color code what type of violation you're seeing. If it's a procedural error, you can do that. That's what these are. Anytime I've got a flyer, it is indicating a penal code, a civil code, or a procedure, or a federal law. So here, I'm writing it down, right here, Family Code 3044, Penal Code 11165.6. And then I wrote the notes about it, but then I flagged it so that when I go to do my follow-up reports on this, I remember that if I needed to pull every example in my case of a family code violation, I would just look for anything with the blue tab. So this is probably a bit too much for, the average Joe, and hopefully you don't have to do this much. But if you do, at least you will have had me who taught you to do all of your little purple binder things, right? Okay, now hold on. I just showed you guys what I was doing with things that just go in here. Now, if something needs corrected, what I'm going to do is circle it in red. And then remember earlier, I said, always file everything in chronological order. It does not matter what it is, because then you have a timeline and you can go through your case and you can remember oh, that was the day that I got the notice that I did have health care. Oh, but then 2 days later, they're telling me this, this, and this. It helps you keep your sanity, because everything can feel like it's all happening at once when you're in family court or CPS hell, because time condenses when you're in active trauma. But if you look at it, realistically, you're like, oh, there was actually 3 days in between those two things. But if you're not, in a constant state of trauma or chaos, those 3 days will actually feel like 3 days. But if you're in just like fight or flight mode and you're just like, get up, eat, sleep, work, kids, and you're just trying to get through the day while actively being like emotionally and psychologically drained and like exsanguinated, and financially exsanguinated, then those 3 days feel more like 1 day or 2 hours, or it's all happening at once. And so then when you file everything chronologically, you can go back and see it from a distance and take some space. And if you're not at a point to do this, all you need to do is get the binder and get the clear tabs, like get this and get the paper and get the binder, and you find a friend, you find a study buddy, and you say, hey, I'm going to go buy you a cup of coffee. I need you to put these 10 sheets of paper into this binder in chronological order and close it and walk away. And whenever I am in a place where I can actually look at it, I will do that. So like for me, it took me 2 years to finally go through my case when I had reached endpoint after being doxxed by the county of Monterey. And I was like, oh, okay, so we've reached checkmate. Now they just have moved to outright trying to kill me by proxy, by trying to get me to kill myself, because what could be worse than a court knowing you're a victim of domestic violence, denying that you're a victim of domestic violence. And then when you're finally forced to produce the evidence of that violence, and it's not just hearsay, it's medical records, it's expert testimony, it's third-party reporting, it's everything all in one. And you have to submit it to show that you weren't lying, because there's credibility findings against you that you weren't able to refute because they blocked you from presenting it in the first place. So you finally have to go, okay, well, here you go. And it's marked confidential. And then the county publishes that, which it's like, what's the point of even having protections? And I know that that's what a lot of Epstein victims are going through right now. It's like, what the fuck was the point of the like Violence Against, Women Act if you're just going to publish my name, but not the people who did the thing to me? What? And anyways, so they published that, and I was like, okay, so now all I have to do is get my documents organized so that I can give it to my lawyer, and then I can die. I'll just stop eating. I'll go sit out in the cold. Because I can't live like this anymore. I have no vital energy left. My entire childhood and marriage and the most intimate details of my life have now been shared across the internet and posted on social media, and my doctor's name and my private emails with my doctor, none of which I'm ashamed of because it all speaks to the abuse, but it's very revealing private information about me, my children, my family of origin, my siblings, like things that it's not just violating my privacy, it's violating literally everybody that I know's privacy, like that I'm related to or that's like mentioned in there in some manner. And then somehow I'm the one that obviously will get the anger pointed at them, that it's like, well, if you hadn't submitted those records, then the court wouldn't have accidentally published them. Okay, but the court did the wrong thing. They admitted that they inadvertently published these documents and that they are literally marked safe at home 001. They were filed on the correct form. They were filed correctly. Like I followed all the procedures. Everything was right. They literally just made the most egregious error possible. But I'm still to blame that's now out in the public, when my other option was not seeing my kids for 5 years because the woman who my ex-husband has hired as her attorney literally has used our divorce to extort $115,000 from me, and that she wants me to pay her in addition to the over $150,000 that I had to pay other lawyers to fight her. And you're just like, I don't understand. So in order to prove that all of the lies you said about me weren't lies, and that I wasn't telling a story, I've been telling the truth consistently over time for 20 years to multiple medical professionals, I have to give up my most private information to the court, which will not only not respect it, they will then not even actually apologize for publishing it. I had to go and dig and get that inadvertent publication. And if I hadn't gone and submitted that, I never would have stood a chance of seeing my kids, because my ex-husband's attorney knew that I had followed every single like process that the family visitation center wanted me to. But I stopped playing their game when I realized that they did not give a fuck about me or my kids. They were not trauma informed, and they were not meeting their mandated reporting laws, and they were not following up with CPS, and they were not like, they weren't doing anything. And instead of actually doing their jobs, they were just like, the mom's difficult. I'm difficult because I have to work 2 jobs to pay $300 a week to see my children, who I was the primary caregiver of up until the day that I told my ex-husband, or I asked him to please leave the house because I could not live like that anymore. And now suddenly I have to play by your rules that are bad rules that are actually causing my children extreme emotional distress. I'm an educator. This is literally what we're trained to do. And I'm sitting in rooms with people with less training, less trauma-informed care, like just less awareness of what's actually happening with my children, who I know because I raised them and stayed home with them for 12 years when I was a perfectly good enough wife for my ex to go gallivanting off with janitors in South America, and gallivanting off with prostitutes in Africa, and gallivanting off to go to Germany and wherever he went, while I raised our children at home while he was deployed, or overseas when he was off on assignment. And then I'm starving because I don't have enough money to pay for food. And I can't stand in line at the food bank on Wednesdays because I've got to get all the way to Salinas to go get my kids. And it's like they play these games with you that are just meant to suck you dry. And I thought at first that it was like, I didn't have my shit together, and I should have been doing more, and I should have been doing this, and I shoulda. And then you get to the point where you're like, I had these medical records this whole time. Why did I never just say, fuck you, here you go? It's like, well, because I was scared that exactly what happened was going to happen. And now we've reached checkmate, where I'm not scared of the truth because it's the truth. And I've had to heal through it in silence and darkness. And at first, I was genuinely just getting these documents together so that, God forbid, if I ended up back in a women's shelter or sleeping in my car and I got attacked or hurt or couldn't defend myself, my kids would have a record of how hard I fought. And I know there are a lot of people who've watched my journey who would like share the public parts of it, of how hard I fought, and then private family members and friends who have watched me fight. But what I wanted was an actual record, like a hard copy record. And so that they can look at it. And so that maybe someday when we're going through family court, or I'm sorry, not family court, when there are people going through like law school, because believe it or not, I was actually supposed to start paralegal school on January 5th. I'd enrolled, I was all ready to go. And then I got doxxed. I was like, well, that's not happening. And now I'm supposed to start in March, and it's already February 15th. So, and I'm going to be in DC the first week of classes. So that's not happening. But I'm not in paralegal school right now because I'm making a record of an entire case that I pray someday I can turn over to a school and I can say, hey, here is a case study from Monterey County, 2023 until 2020, whatever. This is the final outcome. This is how it started. Here's the entire chronological, and I can put as much of my information in there as I possibly can. Now, if my ex-husband were to have one as well, that would be like the chef's kiss of like, okay, now you get all your paperwork. And I bet he does, but I don't think he probably would go to this length. But I know he had his all very organized because everybody kept saying, how does he have the time in the day as a lieutenant colonel raising 3 kids to sit at home and write all of this? Because you know his lawyer's not writing it because it's way too specific and it's got examples. And then like Autumn would keep the children on the phone for up to 5 hours at a time. Fucking what a bitch. I'm such a fuck me, right? God damn. Terrible mother. Giving each and every one of my children my undivided attention for 5 hours at a time. That's weird, Dan, that you cared that I was on the phone for 5 hours with the kids every night when you would leave me home alone with them for days at a time. Make it make sense, bro. Make it make sense. But again, this would be part of the record that a law student who is operating in whatever this new arena we're going to call family court is going to be, looking at like, this is how it used to be, and we can't have this anymore. What we now have are systems that bring families back into wholeness and focus on keeping the family unit together, if at all possible. And if that is not a safe option, if reunification is not a safe option, or if healing is not a safe option, and healing takes both people taking ownership of what got them to that point. I was fully ready in the beginning to just be like, yep, I'm guilty, whatever you want. And my lawyer was like, yeah, no, you're not. And I was like, yeah, but let me just plead guilty so that I can just like be done with this. And he goes, no, because I represent guilty people for a living. And if you're actually innocent and I let you plead guilty, then it looks bad on my record because I only represent, I represent people who have been accused of a crime. And if somebody who didn't do it pleads to it, then that ruins his not reputation, but like it takes his average down. And I was like, oh, cool. But I was willing to do that just to like keep the peace, which is a lot like these records that have been published. I don't care about keeping the peace. I didn't do the thing that caused me to have those records. I didn't ask for the $30,000 in psychological testing that was foisted upon me by a corrupt, shouldn't say that. Nope, by a corrupt lawyer and a prejudicial at best or punitive at worst commissioner. And now it's out there and Monterey County has to actually just look at it and go like, wow, we really screwed the pooch on this one. Let's learn from it. It's going to cost you guys a shit ton because I'm going to see my federal lawsuit all the way through. And I'm going to advocate for the biggest possible payout for every single person that was exposed in that data breach, as well as every single incident of exposure, which like for every federal, like for every mention of a piece, even one line of a private medical document. So like, let's just say like this was a medical document and every sentence is a new piece of medical information. That is a fresh citation. It's a fresh violation. And each violation comes with $1,000 fine, minimum, mandatory. So on one page, I could have 15 pieces of medical information. That's a $15,000 fine. And I have 139 pages. But that's if I just do the federal laws. Then I go in and I do the state laws. And I'm going to nitty gritty it all the way out. And I'm going to get my pound of flesh back from Monterey County that they took from me and my children. And then I'm going to immediately reinvest it into this space. And if that means I'm just buying everybody binders and clear sheets to save their cases so that you guys can donate them to your local law library someday, then that's my, that's my contribution to improving family court. But again, you want to definitely keep track of who is coming into your case and is seeking to help and who is in your case and has a spirit of division. So like we had a fact-based inquiry finder. His name was Mr. Richard Lee. And I had 2 interactions with him and both were professional, courteous, trauma-informed, and neutral in the findings in the sense that they were centered on my children. And as an educator, I mean, a mom first, but as an educator, I couldn't have asked for anything better because he did his job and then he stepped back. I mean, it's like, would I have loved for him to come in and be like, and the dad's doing this and we got to help the mom? Yeah. But would that have been in the best interest of my children to like have another person in the mix whose opinion doesn't become like a neutral voice for the children? It then becomes like supporting one party or the other. No. So if we were to have like this one, it's like an order on the fact-based inquiry. Always file it by the date it was signed because then you can go through and find inconsistencies. And where something is file stamped, it's going to be stamped up here in the corner. I mean, this is just California documents, but most are the same. There's going to be like a stamp saying what day it was received. If it was filed electronically, there will be metadata so you can prove proof of service, all that. Metadata is going to come into play in another masterclass when I teach you guys how to get money back from an attorney who says that they did something for you, but then didn't. And you're like, that's cool. Can I just have the proof of service? And then they're like, oh, well, no, but here's the filing. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Well, that's, let me find one. Well, thank you for the filing, but it's not stamped. So where's the one with the stamp? Oh, well, it's a oh, you had me fill it out and spend 6 hours filling this out, and you charged me for those 6 hours, and then you didn't file it, but you still charged me for that work? No, sir. I'll go ahead and take that. Go ahead and take those 6 hours off my bill right now, because you didn't do the last step of the project, which was turn it into the court and get it stamped, right? So that's a trick to get your money back from your lawyers. But there's like very specific bylaws that you can quote in each state. Now, last but not least, okay, on this piece of paper, this is like a pleader. It's like a joinder for like retirement accounts. It was electronically filed on the 11th of March, 2025. I always keep a name of the people, but then, and on the front of the page, it has the case number correct. On the back, it has the case number wrong. So this was clearly a copy and paste of somebody else's case that they just forgot to like sub out. She did it on the front page, but not the back. She got sloppy. Now, does that make this avoidable order? Not necessarily. It's more like a clerical error. But what I'm going to do is file for a motion, a statement of fact, or like a motion of fact, meaning I'm going to file a motion, and I'm doing this for every single document in my case until my kids are returned, until I'm back to living with until my life is normal and I don't have to do this anymore. I'm going to do this just for the exercise of it, so that I'm preserving the evidence, so that someday whoever's working in the law library where I donate all this can look and go, oh, she went back and corrected the record. And it's like a real, like it's a living document. So what I did here, because that's the thing, if it's on the record, it is on the record. And if you don't agree with it, you have to go back and correct it. And if you don't go back and correct it, then that is just the facts. And there's a dad that I was just talking to, Wes, out of Washington State with the Family Justice Accountability Act. And he has a finding of fact on his record that, he says is false. And I am inclined to believe him, because we've all been, falsely accused of one thing or the other. But if he has sufficient evidence to show that it is false, then it is incumbent upon him to go back and fix the record. Wes, there you go. I just figured out how we are going to correct your findings. See, this is why I teach, because when I use actual examples, I remember things. Okay. Oh, what's he saying? I said, sorry guys, hold on. I can get you in. But they don't want that there. I'm confused. I'm too tired to read this. I'm just going to go question mark. Whatever. Okay, back to Wes. Sorry, guys. I was on a roll and then checked my messages, and I just need to text this dad. So if you guys follow me on Facebook, I Wes. So I'm going to text this dad right now. I figured it out. We need to file a motion to correct the record into your case. Watch my live from tonight that explains the process. All right, boom. See, I'm always trying to solve problems. I just don't always do it right away. So if this was that dad's, what we would do is write in red that like this is the problem that needs fixed, and then put it back in your plate, like put it back in here where it's already organized. And then what you're going to do is put a blank sheet, a blank one behind it, and you're going to write on it motion to correct record. So anytime you come across a blank sheet with red writing in your documents, like that means that's something you have to do. That's your homework. and you need to draft the motion to correct the record. And then you're going to have another sheet. I should have had one more. Motion to correct the record. And then, and remember, you can erase this with dry erase mark. Or I'm sorry, with not dry erase, alcohol. And then you're going to have another one that says, okay, motion to correct record. And then you're going to have one that says corrected filing. And they call it finding of fact. Finding of fact. Or settlement of statement. It just depends on what like you're filing. Is it a motion? Is it an order? Is it a this? But basically, you're going to have three things. One, the document that has the error, and you're going to have, maybe a couple copies in there, or even just one. And then you're going to write what the error is in red so that you have to fix that. And then you're going to make a copy of that error one. Then you're going to submit it with a copy of the original. So you're going to say, like, here's the original, here's the problem with it, and then here is the motion with the correct one. And then you're going to submit that, get the file stamp. Whether you take that to the clerk and get it in person or you file it electronically. We'll go over that on another day. And then once they correct the record, which will probably be at the next hearing, you then go back and put it in here. And that's why we always keep everything chronological, because, well, here's the thing. That new one that comes back is going to have a different timestamp, but you'll have to like flag it somehow to remember to go back. Well, you'll have when they send it back, you'll have the original that has that first date. And so go put it with that. Okay. That's where I'm going to leave it, because I just got a bunch of text messages that I have to read because I don't have a phone right now. And I'm trying to answer questions like that. But before I go, does anybody have anything that they want to? Sorry, I just had all names up there. Oh, I remember the judge I was going to show you guys. This is a judge who has caught a lot of flack in Arizona. Where are you? Where are you? There she is, Judge Melissa Zabor. She has recused out of almost every case that I've been following that she was in, minus like one or two. And I'm still like, why hasn't she recused for those? And if it were me, what I would do, I'd find my judge, and then I would go over to the AFCC, which is the Association of Family and Consolation of Courts. And then I would go to Member Center. I go to the member directory. And you have to remember to get that. But I paid the annual fee, so I can go in here and get this. And then what I would do is I would, oh, you can't see it. Sorry. Hold on. Switch page. Here we are. Share. Okay. So go to afcc.org and then log into their members page. And if you want the file, I have like the update, and then you could search by search. It's weird. They make it so that like it looks like you have to put somebody's name in, but if you just click search, it'll bring everybody up. So what I'm going to do is go to, why is this so slow? Oh, it's already at Z's. Okay. Whoa. Let's just go back to search because I know who I want to. I'm going to look for Marshall, Dr. Marshall. So this is how I found out about Dr. Marshall and her involvement with the AFCC. And I was like, aware of what I needed to be aware of with her. Oh, she changed her email again. Okay. And now she no longer practices in California. She's just in Nevada. So her membership expires in 2026. Her California chapter expires 2026. And then you just got some info, but it's like, okay, why do I need that? What good does this come from? This is a Ponzi scheme. And all of these lawyers and judges and guardian ad litems and family advocates, they self-refer within this ecosystem and they make a lot of money. So like Dr. Marshall, she made off of me and one other mother in the span of under a year, $100,000 for 2 psych evals, right? That's insanity. She literally did 2 reports and made more than I make in a year of teaching, 8 hours a day, all day, every day. It's wild. I want to actually see if you guys can find my name in here. So my married name is Seibel. I still have that legally. I go by my maiden name in Alec publicly. Oh, what? I should be in there. Oh, don't want that. Weird. Huh. Maybe they kicked me out. Whoops, busted. That's okay. I already downloaded and saved their entire membership registrar list dossier. And I refer to it from time to time. But what I would do if it were me and I was going initially through family court, I would go to that website that I gave you guys about the judges that are flagged. And I'm going to put them on here. I think I put it in there earlier, but I'll put it in there again. And then I would go to the AFCC membership roster. I would pay whatever to get in and get that list, or I would reach out to me and get the file. And I would cross-reference and see if you've got a bunch of people who are presenting in the same space. Okie dokie, artichokes. I better get going. I don't think we've got any more questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you so much for being here, and go get organized, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.